So we're following the coastal path from St Lawrence, where our little holiday cottage is, up to the St Catherine's Lighthouse, and then back again inland. So we'll have a look and see what we can see along this route here. There's some sort of bunker and some concrete structures down there. Let's take a closer look. So some rather serious concrete blocks there with ironwork in the top and a bunker there. And I would say probably, if I have to guess, footings for some sort of gun platform and then ammunition bunker, because there's the same configuration up ahead where there are 4 of these footings and then a bunker that's all earthed up. So yeah, ammunition bunker, gun platform, footings. If you know better, please do comment and let me know. So yeah, as I say, same configuration there, 4 concrete pylon footings and a big earthed up bunker. Something else there, concrete, probably remnant of parts of the same structure, facing out into the English Channel, so more than likely defensive from World War II. You know, I keep on telling you to look at the little details. Look at this little beetle down here. Little iridescent green beetle on the flower. Gotta say, walking along the coastal path this close to the cliff edge, when we know that the reason those big stone blocks are down there is because the cliff collapses periodically, does give me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. And I do have to wonder whether this path, because it's so well trodden and worn down, couldn't be actually part of the problem. See, when you're walking along here, you're creating a groove, and that groove is then a channel for rainwater to wear the groove deeper. And I do wonder if sometimes that contributes to the problem of the cliff falling and the coastal path having to move inland. I thought we'd just stop and have a look at this knapweed plant, because something odd has happened to this flower. It's undergone a process called fasciation, where it's produced an abnormally large and misshapen flower. And there are a number of reasons why this can happen. It can be things like insect damage while the flower is just developing as a bud, or it can be genetic problems, or it can be some sort of disease or virus that can cause it. But it ends up producing this big, twisted, misshapen, often flattened flower head, and often the stalk is flattened as well, and that's certainly the case here. So all along here the coastline is studded with these little bays, completely inaccessible on foot, well, unless you clamber over a whole load of rocks at low tide. So there's a little private beach down there that's actually so private it's not available to humans really. Well, I guess unless you've got a boat. So the lighthouse, our destination, is up ahead there. This plant here, huge patch of it, is called Alexander's. Related to celery. It's edible, although this is a little bit far along to be eaten. Earlier in spring, the younger stems can be picked and peeled and then steamed as a vegetable. Got a sort of celery aniseed taste. Goes well with fish. It's actually quite a tasty vegetable, although it's an unusual flavour. I imagine it's one of those things that not everybody will like. That's Alexander's. Okay, that does not look to me like that's meant to be there. I think that boat must have broken adrift in a storm and ended up washed up here. What a shame. Down here, as we come over this rise, I can see the unmistakable outline of a cormorant. Actually, probably a pair of cormorants, it looks like. On that rock out there, I'm seeing that's a cormorant for sure. Let's stop and we'll get a really good view of it if we can. I'm going to stop so that we don't have the camera shaking. And let's zoom in. There we go, standing up on top of that rock, look at that. There we go. That's a cormorant. Well, 2 cormorants. Fantastic. Now that we're closer, I can actually see there are 3 cormorants on that rock, sunning themselves. I guess they're going to go off fishing when they're hungry, but for the moment they're just sitting there sunning themselves. Brilliant. I say that rock, but that rock looks suspiciously like a bit of a building. Let's just zoom in a bit closer there. I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing, but that's actually a brick wall. So that's probably a piece of old building that used to be here, that's been, well, used to be on a cliff top, but is now fallen into the sea. We have to cross a little stream that's just bubbling out of the rocks. Little freshwater spring. Well, we've had a bit of an interesting little trek just now. The path took us away from the beach. I think the coastal path has actually disappeared into the sea, and we've had to cross what is a massive landslip. So the path is still there because the whole landscape has slipped down the hill, but it's fragmented by fallen trees and all kinds of other hazards. And so we've had to fight our way through these woods. There is still the trace of a path, and we're following it as far as we can. We've just come across this rather nice little pond. Now, I don't know if this pond's always been here, or if it survived the landslip, or if it's a new thing since the landslip. But there we go, nice little forest pond. I can see whirligig beetles. Quiet Eva. I can see whirligig beetles on the surface of the water there. Just seen dragonflies zipping about. So it's quite a healthy little pond. So after a massive diversion that took us down several dead ends, every time we looked like we were running out of path, we found another little fork off to one side, and we followed it and ended up in a dead end right in the middle of a gully and had to retrace our steps. So now we've rejoined the main path, but I think this one takes us back to the road. I don't think there's any way to rejoin the coastal path directly, so I think we're going to have to travel along the road a bit and then back down to the coast. The path we're following pretty much is the bed of a river, I think, in wetter weather, so it's just as well it's a sunny day, it's not raining, or else I think we'd be wading. So, kind of a weird thing, that's where we walked, down there. We walked all the way along the coastline and we came to an impassable landslip. We walked back inland hoping to rejoin the coastal path, but actually ended up right back at home just down here. So we've walked now up the public footpath, up the hillside here, and we're up on almost on the road that goes above the cliff. So let's see where we go from here. So this is kind of a figure of 8 walk. It's a shame we couldn't get all the way to the lighthouse, but it was just completely impassable from the coastal path due to landslides and coastal erosion. However, we got a lovely view from up here on the top of a rather precipitous cliff down here. I'm not going to go any closer than this to the edge. There we go. So we're just going to have a rest and enjoy the view, recover from our climb, and then onward. And just to be completely clear, those cows are far away. So this is a view from the viewpoint right on the top of the hill, and that's pretty much the span of where we walked earlier. So we're now just following this footpath alongside a field of barley. Interesting thing about this barley is it must be quite an old variety because it's tall. Modern varieties of barley are short, so that they maximise the crop and they're just easy to harvest for combine harvesters. This barley is tall, which means it's old, but it also means probably that the barley straw here will be harvested and used for thatching. Got a different viewpoint here, so let's just trace a few things. Down there we've got those concrete posts and the bunkers just down across there, and we walked all the way around there, and that little rock there in the water, that's the piece of wall that has the cormorant sitting on it. And do you know what, I think I can just about see that at least one of those cormorants is still sitting there. Now just at that point, that's where we got stuck, and we weren't able to carry on to the lighthouse, which is all the way up there. So we turned inland there and we went through various paths in these woods here and got stuck. Ended up on a road that went all the way back to our starting point, and then we went up the hill and we've come back along the top here. So the plan is now follow this footpath down to the road, and we'll walk back along the road that goes through the middle here. That's about the best we're going to do today, I reckon. One of the interesting things about walking along the side of a cultivated field, we are still alongside that same field of barley. You get to see sometimes traces of the previous crop. So where perhaps the harvester didn't get to the edge of the previous edge of the field during the previous harvest, traces of a wheat type grain with no beard. So not the same thing as the main crop that's growing in there. Yes, I think we're about due a little sit down. So this little break for refreshment and sustenance, and we stopped on this little bench here, which has been erected in memory of Wallace and Edith Monaghan. Lovely. Here we are. We've turned the corner now and we are heading back towards home, and we have to go through a little tunnel here. I think the road goes over the top of us, or somebody's drive. Mind your head. Okay, and now we're just walking down a narrow footpath between two quite tall stone walls. This should take us back down to Undercliff Drive, which is the road to home. I hope so anyway. Unfortunately, the way we've walked today, where we walked out, we got diverted and lost, and walked all the way back home and then out across the top of the hill, we've actually probably walked about 50% further than we intended to on our walk today. So I'm feeling a little bit tired now, ready for a sit down and a cup of coffee or something. Going around another tunnel, mind your head. I don't think Eva likes the tunnels. It's all downhill from here. Just stop and have a look at these fantastic hart's tongue ferns. They seem to thrive anywhere where it's a bit damp and shady, and they're doing very well here. So that's the hart's tongue fern. And here we are, back to civilization at last. I think Eva is only too glad to walk on a made up surface. We ended up walking, I think, nearly all the way to the lighthouse anyway, past some lovely, charming little cottages and houses. And it says St Catherine's Lighthouse is down here, so, well, we're nearly there. I guess we ought to give it a go. Catherine's Lighthouse. So that wasn't our intended route, but we got there in the end. So this is Undercliff Drive, which is closed because of the landslip, which is part of the reason for our circuitous journey today. So we will have a look at that when we get down there, and we'll see what all the fuss is about. Probably a long old trudge now back along this road, but at least it's in the shade and on the level. Feeling pretty exhausted, to be perfectly honest, but we'll just keep on going. So we are entering landslide territory here. I always wondered what the actual utility of these signs really is. I mean, what are you supposed to do if this big rock's falling from the sky? Not get hit on the head by them? I don't really understand. So I think up there is the viewpoint where we sat on that bench and had a little break. So when they named this place Undercliff Drive, they really weren't kidding. Here, this line of tar is where the road has been repaired after it's cracked open during a landslip, and you can actually see that there are further cracks appearing. So this land is on the move. So we're coming up to the bit where the landslip has occurred, and the road is closed until further notice, which I have a nasty feeling probably means until forever, because it doesn't look like there's any intention to repair this road. It's been, well, we'll see when we get there. It's been closed for long enough for trees to grow on the material that slipped, so that would tend to indicate that the closure is more or less permanent. So they've diverted the road up round this part of the landslip, but a little bit further on we'll see that that's not the only problem. So that's the old road there, and in a minute we'll see what the problem with that was. And this is the new road, but it only goes so far. I think the problem with this old road is not so much that the road's gone, it's that the verge on the other edge of it has fallen away. And so there's literally nothing. There's a sheer drop on the right hand side of that road there. So that's landslip problem number one. We'll come on to the bigger problem in just a moment. So this is the landslip that we tried to walk around. There used to be a caravan park here, but I'm going to show you over the top of this fence, and hopefully you'll be able to see. I don't know if you can, but there's just a massive great big hole now. The side of the hill has just fallen away completely. So this caravan park, I believe, is closed down now. Let's have a look if we can see over there. I don't know if you can see down there, but I think there used to be a huge field there with caravans that people would rent for their holidays, and it's just gone. I hope nobody was in their caravan when it fell down. That would be unfortunate. And I'm fairly sure this house now is abandoned because it's on the edge of a precipice, essentially. Garden is overgrown. There's no sign of activity inside the house. So, and again here, another house, no sign of activity, no curtains, no sign of recent repairs or repainting. House is abandoned. And there in that wall we can see great big cracks in the mortar where the side of the building has started to fall away. So not safe to live in anymore. Locked up, abandoned, and on the edge of a cliff essentially. And here's where the road disappeared. So this is the main area of landslide, and I guess it can't be very heartening for the people that live in these houses here, and these houses are still occupied. But there we go, the road which did run directly from where I'm standing through to where you can see the remainder of the road has just fallen away down the hill. And those buddleia bushes down there must be 5-6 years old, so I presume that there isn't any urgent intent to rebuild this road, even though it could probably be done. But if the ground underneath is moving, that's probably the end of it really, and it'll probably remain this way until some more of it falls down. So there it is from the other angle. Not a happy situation. The lamppost, and I've seen these on a few other posts and fixed pieces of street furniture, there's a survey marker there. I suspect that's being used to monitor movement of the land, so they'll be coming through here and surveying periodically to find out if the ground is moving further. So that's the footpath we went up, which means that's the house on the corner, which also means, thank goodness, we're nearly home. I've walked a little bit further than I intended to today. Well, I guess 50% further than I intended to because of all that messing about with missing paths and collapsed cliffs. But we're back to this old house on the corner here, which is just up the road from our holiday cottage. So that's the end of this video. We're going to go and collapse. Nice warm shower and collapse for the evening, I think. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon.